Imagine a world without choices. Imagine you can't make your own decision. That wouldn't be a world for me. That wouldn't be a world for you. UIC.
Tell them we're gonna be stronger. Together we can make it right. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I. Gonna be stronger together. Time we all just unify. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I. It is a natural right for every human being to be free. Free, so free. So the government is there to protect you and me. UIC objective is to liberate the citizens from colonial bondage, them regulation, them taxation. Rob Jamaica, we independent. Stronger.
Imagine a world without choices.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of UIC Liberty TV. This is Joseph Patterson, and tonight we're going to be talking about fake money. Fake money. You might be wondering, what is this all about? What is fake money? So tonight we're going to talk about fake money, what it is, how it works, and what it's doing to you, to our economy, and to you personally. So welcome to all of you who are online so far. I see Baba Blue, Desmond Myrie, big up, Sophia Bell Henry. Good to see you all on, and I hope you're ready for another class, another session. So it's going to be, how do I say now? It should be quite eye-opening for you, I hope, because we're going to look at some pretty nuanced aspects to what we know as money. So let's get right into it tonight. Now, fake money, believe it or not, fake money is the cause of inflation. It is also the cause of devaluation. Fake money is the cause of the high cost of living that makes it difficult for you to earn enough as you work and for you to earn enough for you to retire with dignity. If you understand how this fake money works, you'll be in a better position to manage it, and you will not be fooled by the banks, the media, and politicians, at least not very easily. So it's my goal tonight to unmask what I believe is the biggest fraud ever perpetrated by mankind. Yes, it's a massive fraudulent enterprise that I'm going to unveil to you this evening. It is so big, it is so massive, and it is so successful that hardly 1% of us really understand it. And the weird part about it is that even though 1% of us don't understand it, or just about 1% of us understand it, it affects 99% of us daily. Every single day, you are losing a portion of your effort because of fake money, believe it or not, every single day. So welcome, Arlene Foster. Good to see you on. Good evening to you. Welcome, Craig McKenzie. Good evening. Hey, Craig, remember the days we used to talk about economics and stuff? This will be one of those nights. Welcome, Len Worth. Welcome, Carol Spence. Good to see you all on. So yeah, we're going to talk about fake money for the truth. Good to see you on as well. We're going to talk about fake money. It affects you in so many ways. Now, recently, I would have explained to you, fake freedom, fake democracy, fake independence. And so tonight we're going to talk about fake money. And this one is bigger than all of them. This one is the mother of all fake, what we call fake money. So please remember to share, like, comment, and get everyone you know to subscribe to UIC Liberty TV so that we can get the message out to a wider cross-section of Jamaicans here at home and abroad. So what do you know about money really? What is money to you? If I were to go around and ask you what is money, I'll probably get a as many answers as there are people around. So there are lots of different ideas of money, and I believe most people don't really know what money is. They have never taken the time to ask the question, what is money? In school, they have never really taken the time to teach you what exactly is money. You know about money, you work for money, you work hard for money, you spend money, you earn money, but you don't really understand what money is. So tonight you're going to get a perspective on money that hopefully will open your understanding tremendously. Good. Thank you, Arlene Forrest. Good to hear from you. NASA teaches as private central banks issuing public currencies as loans at interest. So NASA teacher has some knowledge about the subject for sure, because he's using some of the key words in the whole matter. So I'm going to explain some more about it as we go. So let's kick into this. Now, to understand money, we're going to begin by talking about the underlying problem of fake money. The underlying problem of fake money is something called inflation, which you know about. You might even have your own idea of what inflation is, but in order for you to understand inflation, which is a big problem today and has always been a big problem, sometimes you don't realize it, sometimes it becomes very dramatic and you feel it more significantly. But inflation has always been a problem since the introduction of fake money. And this has been going on for a number of years, from as far back as 1913. And it has taken on an even greater significance by 1971. And I was born in 71, and we had some changes there globally that affected money. And it has become more and more fake over time. So again, to understand inflation, you need to understand what is money versus what we know of today as currency. And we seem to use those words interchangeably. You hear some people talking about money, and when they're talking about money, they also use the same words for currency, and we get them confused. Yeah? But you must not confuse money with currency. They're actually two different things, but you have been led to believe that they're one and the same. I'm going to show you the differences between money and currency, and I'm going to show you that what you're using on a daily basis is not money, but currency. And the fact that you're using currency on a day-to-day basis is the reason why I call it fake money, because currency is not money, even though it pretends to be money in a number of ways. In fact, money is, if you're going to define money, there's some basic words. Money is something which is generally accepted as a medium of exchange. So if we agree to use bottle stoppers or stones or chains or marijuana, whatever it is we choose to use, and all of us kind of agree to use it and use it regularly, that can be a form of money. So money is normally generally accepted as a medium of exchange between us. It is normally portable, meaning it's easy to move it around. Yeah, like paper money, as you know it, is very easy to move around, right? It's light, you put it in your pocket, in your wallet, in your purse. You even have it online now, in the bank, you can go into your account and transfer money to somebody, so it's quite portable. Money is also durable, meaning it doesn't fade away very quickly. It can, it's an enduring piece of paper or a piece of plastic or a piece of gold or a piece of silver. It's also fungible, which means it is the same to all of us. So if I have $1 in my pocket and you have $1 in your pocket, they're equivalent. So it's fungible. We call that, fungibility. It is also easily divisible. So you can divide it into small portions, like $1 can be divided into, 2 50 cents or 4 quarters or 10 cents, and so on. So it's divisible into smaller units. But one of the most important characteristics of money, which I want you to lodge in your brain, and this is going to be the key factor that determines real versus fake, Yes, I want you to kind of log this one in your memory. Don't forget it. So all the others are fine, generally accepted, portable, fungible, divisible, wonderful. But there's one particular factor when it comes on to money that you must have that factor for it to be real money. If you don't have that factor, it is not real money, it is fake. And believe it or not, you might have been overlooking it for a very long time. You might have not realized how significant it is. You kind of know, inside of you, inherently you know it, you feel it every day, you work around it, but it is something you need to understand that it is not normal. Even though it has been normalized in society and you've gotten used to the lack of it, it doesn't mean it's normal, it doesn't mean it's okay. It actually means that somebody is messing with you. Somebody's messing with your economy. And that very important single factor is called a store of value. Money must have a reliable store of value. Money must be a reliable store of value. So when you work, when you go to your job and you give that job your time and your energy and your intellect, the company then gives you money or currency in this case in return. And if it's real money, it should capture the value of your effort and store that value for later use. Yes, in a certain degree, currency does that, but it doesn't do it very well. It's leaky. It doesn't hold on to the value of your labor and intellect for very long. But real money holds that value. Real money allows you to earn $1 today if it's measured as $1. And that dollar must be able to buy the same goods and services 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. That's real money. Fake money, on the other hand, doesn't do that. Now, currency is like money in every way, except this very important one. So fake money is portable, it's durable, it's fungible, it's easily divisible into small change, but currency is not a reliable store of value. And so currency is fake. It is not good at storing your economic value. Now that's very important because remember, you're exchanging your time, your energy, your talent, your intellect for this piece of paper or these digits in a computer. And when you exchange the two, very quickly they're no longer equivalent because shortly after you make the trade and you get the money for your labor that you have worked 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, and that piece of paper or those digits on the computer screen do not retain their value, then it means that something has gone wrong. Somebody has robbed you somewhere. So currency is really fake money. And as such, it's always robbing you of your earnings. It's always robbing you of your purchasing power every single day. In other words, as soon as you earn it, its value is declining. So currency is not money. Let that sink in and remember that. Now, if you were to have earned 100,000 Jamaican dollars 5 years ago, and that 100,000 could have bought you the electricity that you want, the water you want, the food, the housing, rent, entertainment, travel, schooling for your kids, some healthcare services, and putting aside some for your retirement savings. If that was the case 5 years ago, today, it would not be able to do that. Because that 100,000 has shrunken in value significantly. It means that your purchasing power has been eroded even though your productivity may have gone up. Even though you may be working harder, the money that you have earned has lost its value. Why is that? Why is this happening? I'm going to explain that. I want you to fully understand why is it your money is always losing value every single solitary day, no matter how hard you work. Why is it losing value so much? So this currency thing is a fake thing. Currency is based on a monetary system that is deliberately designed to cause it to lose value or purchasing power if you don't do something. It's designed to lose value if you don't do this thing. You have to constantly circulate that money in the economy in a profitable way in order to maintain the value. So it's like a current. And a current is only powerful if it keeps moving. The moment the current stops, it dwindles and dies and loses its power. It's the same thing with currency. Currency, current. So if the current stops, if you take the money and put it down, it's going to lose value. If you take the money and invest it in something which is not very profitable, it's going to lose value. So for your money to maintain its value, you always have to be on the lookout to find something profitable to do with this money. But that's very hard. Why is it so hard? Because remember, most of your daytime hours is spent slaving on the job. You're working for somebody, for the entire day, from you leave home maybe 6, 7 in the morning, try to get to work for 8:30, 9 o'clock. You dep on the clock for the whole period. You get a little bit of lunchtime. Then you back to work. You leave work at 5 or 6 o'clock, and you're stuck in traffic, maybe for an hour and a half, maybe. You finally get home. You're drained. You're exhausted from the work. You're tired. You don't have the time to go and study how to find the most profitable investment for the little money that you earn. In fact, most of your time is spent now with the bills. Which bills are going to pay, how much you want to put here, so the children's education, all that kind of stuff. So you're really busy. You're too busy really to become a genius at managing money, to spend time searching out the most profitable enterprise to put your money into. So guess what happened? You have a problem, because remember, your money is automatically going to lose value by design. This is designed deliberately by these people, right? They have designed it so that your hard-earned currency will not hold its value. You must find profitable means to invest it in. Remember, you just work. You have worked very hard for this money. You have put your life into it, a lot of energy, a lot of brain power. So you're tired now after 8, 9, 10 hours between traveling and work and stress from the boss, and you go home stress from the wife or stress from the husband, stress from the kids, stress from the neighbor. And then now you have this additional stress, a massive stress actually, because the value of your money is running away. Even if you don't understand what I'm talking about, this is something you feel every day. You feel it inside of you inherently. This is what makes you so stressed. It makes you very stressed out. It makes you depressed. It makes you anxious. It puts you on edge because you don't know what to do. Some of you don't even understand math, let alone economics, let alone finance, let alone investments. So you're stressed out and you get more gray hair than you need to. You feel like you're running fast, and the faster you run, you're not getting anywhere. You're running hard and fast, but you're still not able to catch up. You can't get ahead of the curve. This is the reason why we have such high levels of depression. People are highly medicated just trying to survive. Some people are on all kinds of drugs. This actually drives up crime. It actually pushes more men and women to commit all kinds of fraud, to steal from their employers, to steal from their customers, trying to cope, trying to manage, trying to exist in a system which is deliberately designed to rob them of their hard-earned income. Now, this is criminal actually, but they don't teach it to you like that. You just accept that inflation is normal. It is not normal. So the reason why you have to constantly invest this currency in something profitable in order to stop it from losing value is because of what I call artificial inflation. Now, this is far more dangerous than artificial intelligence, and the two of them are not similar in any way. Artificial intelligence is codifying man's intelligence into machine and having it engage and so on. But I know, most of us quickly understand how dangerous that is. But while artificial intelligence is very current, very now, artificial inflation has been around for decades. And we don't have anybody rising up and going against the government and saying, stop it, because they don't really understand. Yeah. They don't really understand what is really happening. And they've made sure you don't. So in school, they have not taught you to understand inflation. They've not taught you to understand economics properly or finance properly, so that, you understand that they're doing something very bad to you. This is worse than AI. Artificial inflation is created by a massive global fraudulent monetary system that is called central bank or central banking. Now, I'll explain inflation more in a bit, but first I want to talk to you about this idea of central banking, which is accepted like sliced bread. We hear central bank, we just think it's okay. Central bank digital currency, central bank affecting interest rate, central bank trying to control exchange rate and all that kind of stuff. This is one of the most dangerous creation ever. Central banking is where the global oligarchs, the global banking cartels have gotten together and coerced national governments around the world into legalizing their counterfeiting enterprise by giving them control over the nation's monetary supply. That is the money supply, interest rates, and by extension, exchange rates. So our government and many of the governments around the world, there's only about 3 countries that is not involved. Cuba is one of them, for obvious reasons if you know about the history of Cuba. But what they've done is to get all the governments around the world to buy into a monetary system whereby those governments legalize in their country the ability for the global oligarchs working through their local representatives that they have to legalize counterfeiting, to legalize what is counterfeiting. Counterfeiting is when you copy money and use that when you never earn it. You just copy it and you just use it, right? So you're actually diluting the currency pool or the money pool in whatever case. And so we have our government, the Jamaican government, like others, have bought into this system where they have legalized counterfeiting by the banking sector, the banking cartels, the banking elites. So these oligarchs hide behind such word as independent. So they call it your independent central bank. Now it's a crime network across the world where all these banks are linked, all of it linked right into the monetary system of the United States, which has a fraudulent system of making new money and pushing it into the economy at interest for the banks themselves, having this power to create money that they didn't earn and push it into the economy, and they get the benefit of that early money, the profits from that early money, while diluting your hard-earned currencies. So these oligarchs, they hide behind the phrase independent, and it's supposed to mean something good. It simply means that the nation's banks are independent of their government and therefore independent of their people, and are thus not owned or controlled by the people anymore via their government, but by a banking cartel, global banking cartel, and their local accomplices. Now here's the worst thing about it. the local accomplices who are working in this establishment don't even know, some of them don't even know that they are helping to commit a crime against their fellow citizens and even against themselves, because many of the employees there are suffering the same fate. And they can talk a lot of gibberish about central banking and protecting and interest rate and managing inflation and targeting inflation. All of that is hogwash. A whole heap of mumbo jumbo and nice sounding words for one very simple process. The process is this: it allows the banking cartel, locally and internationally, to rob you, the people, by printing money and lending it into the economy without having earned it, and then being able to reap that interest that makes themselves wealthier and wealthier. That's why no matter how bad Jamaica is, the banks always make billions and billions of dollars locally, and their international counterpart similarly making billions off the Jamaican people who are still poor. But even though they're poor and suffering and struggling, these banks are able to make billions in this very poor environment where so many people are struggling. They are still making billions. So that is a key part of the problem and the underlying factor that has created this fake money that your government is a part of. This is like a communist dictatorship style system where you have a central planning unit. So they have central planning, central management of the nation's money supply and the interest rate. But all of this is done not to benefit the people, but to benefit the global oligarchs while pretending to be in the people's interest. And here's how they pretend. They say to you, if you allow your government to print money directly and move it into the market, they're going to abuse the power. You know how politicians are, right? They're going to make a lot of lofty promises, and then they're going to print money willy-nilly, push it into the economy, and it's going to create massive inflation and severe economic challenges, which is true. That will happen if you have careless politicians, poorly written laws, and a bad system of governance. That's what's going to happen. Now, what they've done is shifted that opportunity for evil from misguided politicians to sophisticated financial criminals. So we've shifted from this group of politicians who would do dumb things, because that's what they do, dumb things, and we've moved it over to some brilliant criminals who are able to mastermind skillful ways to rip people off financially, and so they get to do it instead. And they call that the solution. So they get our governments to legislate this central bank into being, this communist-like central authority. So they legislate it into being, and then the government abdicates its responsibility and give away our collective sovereignty, which also diminishes our individual sovereignty. When you give away the Bank of Jamaica, which they have done, you're giving away our control over our currency or over our money. You're giving away control over our economy, and you're placing that in the hands of some invisible people who are working through some minions who sit as representatives here in their banking hierarchy and system. So we have lost control long time ago, not just now. They have formalized it recently, but long time ago we have lost control of our economy. We're not in the driver's seat. Our politicians are not in the driver's seat of our economy. They take orders. They carry out orders. They're not planning, managing, and designing and making sure that our economy is structured to benefit us. They're making sure that they carry out the dictates of their colonial masters through the banking oligarchs to make sure the system works for them and not us. And that is why you are struggling to make ends meet each and every day. Not just here in Jamaica, it's the same across many other countries in the world, right? But Jamaica, we're feeling it a lot because we don't have old money here. All of the old money from slavery left Jamaica and went back to Europe. right? So we're faced with the full brunt of trying to develop an economy that has been fully raped, yeah, and having politicians who are not really engaged in development but are also engaged in the process of rape. So the global oligarchs that I'm talking about, they're working through these central banks across the world. And as such, they're able to manipulate almost every single country in the world and the entire world economy to create what you hear, sometimes they call it boom and bust. So they create the booms and they create the bust. And in between the booms and the bust, they milk us. They do that at will. They can do that anytime they want, and they plan it. And they have some kind of, rationale behind it afterwards that tells us, that it's caused by speculation, or it's caused by greedy bankers, or greedy this, or something. But the bottom line is they never explain to you that this is actually planned, orchestrated. Yeah. So they do this to benefit a few at the expense of the unsuspecting majority. So they'll pump up the stock market and then dump it, as they did in 1929 and in a number of years since. They will manipulate money through things called quantitative easing, which is nice terminology for devaluing your hard-earned money by diluting it with new money that is just coming in without any form of productivity. So they manipulate the global economy by increasing and decreasing money supply, messing with interest rates as they see fit. And through this process, they secretly transfer wealth from the poor and the middle class to themselves via inflation, deflation, and devaluation. You saw a big one in 2008 when we had that so-called debt crisis then. So the Bank of Jamaica is the local equivalent of a central bank. Yeah, so it's just what do you call it now? Like a franchise operation, a subdivision, a subsidiary of the bigger international central banking system. So our central bank doesn't work for us. It's fully clued in and working for the banking cartel, 150%. Yeah. So every day you wake up, the bank is not working for you. Now, what is the purpose then of the two colonial parties that have been running our country all these years? And they're asking us for 200%, but not asking, and are now taking a 200%, 300% increase. What is their purpose? They have not been engaged in defending Jamaica against the onslaught of these global oligarchs. They simply work for them, and they establish the arrangement in Jamaica and systematically carry out the plans that are set. And this set of plans wipes out your purchasing power. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have $100 today, right now, $100, and there is 5 apples in the economy, and you have $100, and your neighbor has $100, and your other neighbor has $100. So between the three of you, you have $300 on your 5 apples. It means if you all wanted those 5 apples, the maximum price any one of you can pay for those apples is $100. So the seller of that apple, his price is going to be within the $100 range. Now, if one of you suddenly got an extra $1,000, not by working, not by producing anything, you just got $1,000 in your hand, it means now that you will have the power to buy up all of those apples and deny the others. Not because you're smarter, not because you've worked harder and more productively, but because you were in a privileged position to counterfeit some money. That's the position that the banking oligarchs, the banking cartels, they're given this power to print and use more money. Now for Jamaica, it's a bit nuanced than that. I'm going to explain to you. So let's discuss what inflation is and how it robs you of your wealth by decreasing your purchasing power each and every year. Inflation, if you were to define it, is a decrease in the value of your money, or your currency, your hard-earned money. So inflation means the value of your money is coming down. You normally see that in the sense of prices going up. So they say, okay, a bread was $100 a few months ago, and now it's $150. You see that as price going up. But really, it means that if you were earning $100, you now need $50 more or 50% more to buy the same bread. So either way, the value of your money has gone down. Now, here in Jamaica, the government tells us on their website through the Bank of Jamaica that their target is 4 to 6% inflation every year. In other words, they're planning that prices should go up on average 4 to 6% per year. So they're telegraphing that to you, that is the plan that they have. Now, that is amazing. Now, you should be immediately upset. You should want to burn down the government. Why do you plan to steal 4 to 6% of my money every year? Why? Why are you telling me that you plan to do this? Now, if they take 6% a year of your value and you just do simple math, not the complex math, simple. This year you lose 6%. Next year you lose 12%. The following year you lose 18%. How could that be sensible? That every year your money value is going to drop a little bit. Now, if you even get an increase in your paycheck, are you getting a 4 to 6% pay increase every year? Maybe not. Most times it's about 3%. So even though you're getting, let's say, 3% this year, the cost of goods went up by 6%. Let's say for simple math, next year it's also 6%. So now your costs have gone up from over the 2 years, 12%, but your income would have gone up, 6% if you get 3% every year. The following year, it would have gone up to, on average, right, say 18%. And your pay, if you got 3% again, you'd have now gone up to 9%, but now you're at 18%. So you're always going to be behind with this system. And the government is telling you that they are committed to stealing 4 to 6% of your wages every year. Now, let me tell you the reality. It's not 4 to 6%, okay? It's much more than that. In fact, you are experiencing this loss of purchasing power every year, and it's compounding at a tremendous rate. I'm going to share with you some incredible numbers now about how much it is compounding. I wonder if I can share. I'm going to try to share with you a report from the worlddata.info. I'm going to share with you a report from them. Before I share it, watch this wonderful video from the Bank of Jamaica, cheering you on and softening you up with nice music and nice sound while they're ripping you off at the same time. I want you to listen to this carefully.
Inflation's not the enemy if we control it. If it's too high, the people are gonna cry.
And if it's too low, the country now go. When inflation is low, stable, predictable. Consumers and investors feel secure. And when we find that middle ground, the economy will grow some more. Car loan, school fee can start out. Granny saving now get knocked out.
And the BOG inflation targeting strategy that
low, stable, predictable, yeah.
Yeah, so wonderful, eh? They're going to give us a stable and predictable inflation rate management, and inflation is not the problem. It's how you manage it and target it. And you might recall the government told you to stop worrying about foreign exchange rate and focus on inflation. And during this period, when they were telling this to us, they were busy putting in place legislation to fully give away the Bank of Jamaica by calling it now independent. It's now independent of the government. So they fully gave away the bank, and they gave away a few $1 billion with the bank as well. And so now the Bank of Jamaica is no longer under the control of the government. Now, to be fair, it's years now that it has not been under the control of the government, but the government could have still stepped in. but they formulated legislation and made it permanent, at least from their perspective. When the UIC is elected, we're going to reverse that. But for now, it's permanent by their law. Both parties, not one or the other, both of them quietly did it. You did not hear any uproar in Parliament. You did not hear a word from the opposition saying, no, this is wrong. No. They were all for it, 100%. Yeah, and they both worked together quietly under the COVID and all the stuff when we're all suffering and struggling. They worked quietly and passed legislations that they didn't bring to us. They did not come to you in an election and says, vote for me so I can give away the Bank of Jamaica. Vote for me so I can make the bank independent. Vote for me so that the government will not be able to control our monetary policy anymore. They did not tell you that. They told you nice things, and at the same time, they were giving away your sovereignty. When a country loses control of its monetary policy, it has lost control of its country. It has no sovereignty. Jamaica is as non-sovereign as it could ever be since the time of slavery until now. Okay? And so they have tricked us, and it's quietly done. And nobody's in the street marching and campaigning. But let me give you some stats now. There's some serious stats that you need to see. When you see this, it's going to blow your mind, absolutely blow your mind when you see these stats, because you're going to realize, you already know this, but you don't really understand it. Many people, you felt it, but you're not really sure. You can't put your finger on it. What's really happening here? So now I'm going to make sure you can put your finger on it 100% and know exactly why your life's so hard, why you suffer so, why you struggle so, why we have so much poor people in this country. Now you're going to fully understand it when I share this with you. I hope I can bring it up. So I'm going to share my screen again and show you the inflation rate history of Jamaica. I hope you can see that. So here is the worlddata.info. You can go look it up yourself, right? I'm going to walk you through this. I hope I can. Let me see if I can make the screen a little bigger for you so you can see, everything. Can you see it there? I hope you can see clearly. So I'm going to read for you what this says. You should be able to see it, right there on the screen. It says the inflation rate for consumer prices in Jamaica moved over the last 62 years between 1.4% and 77.3%. Now, let's talk about that. It's saying here that the inflation rate for Jamaica for the last 60 years, so from 1960 or so, it has moved from 1.4% to 77.3%. Remember, inflation means reducing the value of your hard-earned income. So you earn $50,000, and over the period, it will reduce that by whatever percentage it is, okay? So in this case, it's saying over this period of 62 years, the range of inflation has been between 1.4% and a low of 1.4 and a high of 77.3%. But watch this now. In 2022, it says an inflation rate of 10.3% was calculated. Just imagine let me do the math for you here. If you have $100 and you can buy something with that $100 at the beginning of 2022, the beginning for $100, by the time you get to the end of 2022, that's something that cost you $100 could easily cost you 100 times 1.103, $110.30. So if you're still only making $100, you're short now by $10.30. Okay, you're short enough if you're still earning $100. If on the other hand, over that 1 year, your employer gave you a 3% raise, you would still be short $7.30 to buy that same product. Now, if that rate of inflation holds for 2023, it means for that same product, you're going to multiply that number now by 1.103. It means you now need $122 to buy the same product you used to buy for $100. So now you're short $22 to buy the product that you used to be able to buy for $100. But let's say your employer gave you another 3% increase. You now have $106, but you're still short because $6 from $22 leave you with $16 short. Yeah. So here again, you are still behind the game that they're playing with you, even if your employer gives you a little 3% increase. Now that's why the politicians wanted to give themselves, and well, not wanted, that's why they gave themselves 200% and 300% increase, because inflation has eaten away the value of the money that they have. So they're willing to give themselves that. And before they do that, they gave you I think it was a 60% increase, I think, on minimum wage, or 40%, something there, but a big number to make it look like they're doing something good. They know that the value of that minimum wage is wiped out. So even if they gave you 100% increase in minimum wage, that is still not enough to compensate for how much they have wiped out the value of that minimum wage over a period of time. But watch me now. Back to this article. I want you to see the next line in it. It says, during the observation period from 1960 to 2022, the average inflation rate was 13.5%. The average inflation rate was 13.5% each year over this 62-year period. Listen to this now. The overall price increase, listen carefully, the real pricing is, let's say 13.5% was the average yearly. The overall increase, let me put it up so you can see. The overall increase, look at that. Let me dig it up for you, because I want you to know that I'm not trying to deceive you. I'm going to make it big and clear there on the screen. 100, you see that number? The overall increase was 182,266.56%. That is what these two colonial parties have done to you. So if you had $100 in 1960, and that $100 could buy you many things in 1960. In order for you to buy those same things today, you would need to have $182,000, $262.56 to buy the same amount of things you could buy with $100 in 1960, just before we got independence. You follow me? So what you can buy today with about $182,000 is what you could have bought in the 1960s for $100. They've wiped out the value of your money completely. That's what these two parties have done to you. It says here, the performance over the last 62 years compared to the US, if only a few countries, it says in only a few countries, the price increase is this high. Only a few countries. There are not many countries on the planet where this magnitude of price increase has occurred. It says, let me put it on screen so you can see it, because I want you to know that this is not some idle talk here. We're talking about what they have done to you, what they have done to your parents, your grandparents. This is what affected this is why our grandparents, many of them retired poor, in poverty. This is why you will likely retire poor and in poverty. Right now you might be okay because you feel strong and fit. You're 25 or 35 years old, or even 45 years old, at which point you should start to worry. And whatever little money you think you're going to get for your pension will be no match for what they're going to do to the value of your money using this fraudulent system here. So here it is. It says, in only a few countries, the price increase is that high. The Consumer Price Index, or CPI, of 77.3% in 1992, that's Mr. P.J. Patterson era, means that compared to the previous year, all prices increased by an average of 77.3%. In comparison to most other countries, this drastic price increase are no longer average. Usually, this is a sign of political or economic turmoil. And you know what that is, eh? This is the beginning of the FinSac era. This is where P.J. Patterson and Omar Davis is going to rip off this country at a level never before seen in the history of Jamaica. This was the most massive transfer of wealth from the poor and middle class to a few people in Jamaica. P.J. Patterson, Omar Davis, the People's National Party did that to our country. But let me zoom in a little bit more so you can see what was going on here. I'm zooming in so you can see the growth chart. If you look back here, you'll notice the inflation rate wasn't so great in the first years, 1960, 61, 62, and so on. It starts to pick up in the Siaga era, that pick up really big from the late 70s, 1977, 78, to the 80 election with Siaga. It started really like it's running off. It's beginning to just zoom off the chart. I hope you can see the chart there. And then it just zoomed up, like zoomed. Just look at that. Look at the rise. P.J. Patterson, 91, 92. So, well, P.J. The 89 election, the PNP won, and it's zooming up, go all the way now to Bruce Golden in 2007, and it took off under Bruce Golden, 2007, 2008. I mean, more dramatic, right? All the way to 2011 when Sister P came in, and it run up again, all the way to 2016 when Andrew went. And look at Andrew from 2016 to now, massive steep increase. So it doesn't matter whether you vote PNP or GLP, this is the reality. This is the reality, no matter which of the two of them you vote for, a massive erosion of your purchasing power, a pushing of you and your children and your family down into poverty. No matter how fast and hard you run, they're pulling the rug from under your feet with their economic model. And their model, yes, they'll tell you all kind of fancy statistics. Oh, they're doing well globally. Of course they're doing well globally. They're doing just what the colonial masters order. They're doing exactly what satisfied the banking cartel. They're making sure that the PSOJ oligarchs are happy. But they're not doing anything for you. No matter how much you think, even if they come in your community and give you $5,000 or $10,000 or a sheet of zinc or some plyboard or some cement or a goat, it doesn't matter, because the underlying economy that you're standing on, that economy is fraudulent and is going to rip you off every single day. The 5,000 they're going to give you to vote in the next election, or the 10,000 they're going to give you, that will be nothing. It's not going to set you up for success. It's just keeping you pacified in failure. And they're going to continue this failure for another 50 years if we allow them. It's 80 of it now. And if we allow them, it's going to be even more. So don't let them trick you again. They are not in this. No matter what they tell you, how much wonderful promises they're going to make you in this election, no matter how much Mark tried to talk patois to nice you up, and how much him talk about him going to fight against Andrew, he and Andrew are one and the same. They might look different, they might sound different, but they're a part of the same system. They take nice young little Andre Orton and bring him in. They're going to corrupt him the same way and make him just like, because he's a part of the system. The system is designed to undermine you, to rob you for the benefit of a few. Yeah? So there are two kinds of inflation that you need to understand. Two types of inflation. And you need to get a real good understanding of those two types. Type number one is called natural inflation. And type number two is what I call artificial inflation. So remember, natural inflation and artificial inflation. Now, natural inflation is when a particular good or service is in short supply due to some kind of natural causes. You can have a hurricane, a storm, which wipes out a particular crop. And so let's say you had, banana farmers across the country. And we have a storm or a hurricane, and it wipes out 80% of the banana crop, right? So 80%, all the farmers who had banana, this hurricane wiped out their crop, and only 20% is left. Now the 20%, they will have 20% of the usual amount of bananas in the market, but you'll have 100% of demand still. So all the people who wanted banana still wants banana. So the demand is there, but now only a smaller amount of bananas are available. So naturally, the price is going to go up because the demand is bidding for the banana, and the farmer will raise his price, or the supermarket who is selling it will raise the price to match the demand. And so banana prices will go up accordingly. Okay, that's called natural inflation. That happens all the time in different ways, but it's not man-made. It's nature. A hurricane, a storm, an earthquake. Sometimes you might even have a fire in a community, a fire in whatever. Things happen, and those create natural price imbalances between demand and supply. That's okay. We're not worried about that. That's a part of life. The inflation you have to worry about is artificial inflation. This is when government policy pumps more money, or new money, or really fake money, into an economy at a rate greater than the citizens' productivity. So if you pump more money into the system than the citizens are able to produce within a reasonable period of time, you're going to have a mismatch. They have more money than productivity. And if you have more money than productivity, then the limited amount of productivity is going to rise in prices because you have pumped too much money in. Where does this money come from normally? Apart from the banking sector being given the counterfeiting powers, which I talked about, legalizing counterfeit. That's one source of the problem. Another source is when the government borrows money. So they borrow money now from overseas to make up for deficit spending, where they're spending more than they earn. So the government is spending more than what it's taking in taxes. So they want to spend more money. For example, they might want to run some projects where they're going to get a chance to thief some money from us. If they borrow a whole heap, more than our productivity, then this is going to create inflation because they're going to spend this money into the economy, but it's a mismatch between productivity. And so you're going to have a rise in prices. Now, just to make sure I'm not, leaving you behind, type yes if you're understanding and no if you're not. So if you're not understanding, please type no. If you're understanding, type yes, so I know that you're following me, so I can continue. If what I'm saying makes sense to you, you're understanding it, type yes. If it's not making sense to you, type no, so I can adjust myself accordingly. So let me know if you're understanding, okay? And if it's making sense. If not, I will change my explaining abilities, and try to fit that in. All right, so most people are following, it appears. So now, as I said, artificial inflation now is when the government pumps more money into the economy than our productivity. and it pumps this in by virtue of borrowing money to cover corruption, deficit spending. Deficit is when your income is less than your expenses, and you probably have this expense because a lot of the money is going into corruption. For example, in the early 1960s, when we borrowed money to build schools, we only built, and this was the JLP, they only built half the number of schools, twice the price that they should spend. So that's a big amount of corruption there and theft. Now that would lead to a mismatch in productivity and the amount borrowed, which then is going to create inflation, which we have suffered over the years to the tune of 182,000%. Yeah. So a price of any good or service will always rise if the supply decreases while the demand rises or stays the same. So if the demand remains the same or rises and the supply decreases, then the price is going to go up, right? So for example, during the COVID era, when you have lockdowns, so you're locking down people, so you're reducing the amount of production that you're giving, so they're not producing as much, while at the same time, let's say you're giving them stimulus checks or whatever, or they're just there in need of the supplies, but you have reduced the supply, then prices are going to rise because of that. So sensible governments will work differently. Bad governments or governments that have been co-opted by the banking cartel and the big business and big data and so on will do foolish things, and then we will pay for it with higher prices. On the other hand, a price for any product will decrease if the demand decreases or the supply outpaces demand. So if you have more supply than what is being demanded, that usually brings down prices. So for example, in the agricultural setting, you can have what is called a glut in the market. Let's say 1 year farmers did very, very well. They had perfect condition, perfect weather, perfect pest control, perfect fertilization, and things were just really good. So every single farmer did very, very well. So you have a glut on the market. Too many people rushed into pumpkin farming, for example, because they heard that it was good the previous year. More people start to plant pumpkin, and they all had a good bumper year. That's going to cause a glut in the market, and prices are going to come down. That's deflation. Now, all of us love that, right? Except the farmer, when prices come down because of gluts. Now, if government causes more money to enter the economy relative to the supply of goods and services produced by citizens, prices will rise as well. And that is the one I'm concerned about the most, because that's what happens in Jamaica. The government has consistently allowed a lot of fraudulent money to come into the economy because of their corruption, their mismanagement, and the fact that they've given up control over our monetary policy as well. This also affects the value of the currency, because if you have more money in the economy, the people are going to also try to buy more foreign goods, which is going to drive down the price of our money, because we're not exporting more, but we're importing more. So that's going to drive down the value of the dollar. And that's why the Jamaican dollar has always been, relatively speaking, in a free fall because of those mismatches. If the country becomes heavily import dependent, which we are and continue to become more, the prices of import also increases inflation, because you're now importing inflation from other countries. So like if the US is going through inflation, their inflated prices will rebound in Jamaica if we're importing a lot from them. And so coupled with our own inflationary problems, we're now importing inflation from other countries like America that particularly manipulates its own currency. So we're making our problem doubly worse, right? So the importing country, in this case Jamaica, will suffer from even more higher prices. If you have other issues like wars and all that kind of stuff happening, that will further exacerbate the problem as well for the country. And so again, your politicians, their policies can have severe consequences for you. Now, Jamaica has always suffered from inflation caused by government borrowing more than our local productive capacity. which drives up prices and devalues our currency. As we become less productive, the value of our dollar also falls, which compounds the problem of excessive borrowing. So a lot of connections here. Now, how do we avoid artificial inflation? How do we stop this? The way to avoid artificial inflation caused by borrowing is to not borrow from banks at interest and instead produce our own money as needed to fund public goods and services that are actually going to increase our productivity to a degree greater than the new money that we produce to fund real GDP growth. I'll say that again. If we want to stem the tide of artificial inflation, we have to cut off Jamaica's relationship with the kind of banking practices that we've been doing and shift our government to stop borrowing money at interest unnecessarily. Sometimes you'll have to, but generally speaking, they don't have to. Take back the power of producing your own money, stop the banks from counterfeiting, produce your own money directly from the government, but only to the extent needed to increase our productivity and keep the two in tandem. What that will do, it will now bring your purchasing power in parity with your productive sector. It will cause your GDP to grow at a more organic rate, and you're going to end up with a country with a more balanced and stable economy. The way to avoid artificial inflation caused by importation now is to export as much or more than we import by developing solid competitive advantages in some key areas. The UIC has always outlined them. We have a competitive advantage in organic farming, which we have not exploited. We have a competitive advantage which we can develop in community tourism, which the UIC has explored and explained in other series. We can build a knowledge-based economy similar to Singapore and develop an advantage there as the largest English-speaking country in our region. So we have tools that we can use. We have things, but we cannot do that with two corrupt parties, with a corrupt system of governance, with a fraudulent constitution, a fraudulent monetary system. We can never achieve any of that under that, which is why the UIC is saying, let's do away with it. So our governments of the last 80 years failed to build an inflation-resilient economy by choosing to bind us to a fraudulent monetary system that undermines our economy and undermines our purchasing power as individuals and even as a country. This fraudulent monetary system allows banks to lend fake money they did not earn, to charge interest on this unearned fake money to both individuals and the government, which has fraudulently chosen to borrow from them this counterfeit or fake money instead of creating it directly the same way that the banks do. So all of this problem of our economy lies squarely in the hands of these two colonial parties. Now, what about the new bank notes that they're bringing in? The new bank notes that they're bringing in simply means more currency, which will further dilute the value of existing currency, which means more inflation, more loss of your purchasing power. They're masking this impact with a $2,000 note, since the 1,000 note is now significantly less valuable. So they're telling you all kind of nice things about the $2,000 note and how they're bridging the gap between 1 and the 5, and now it's going to hogwash. It's foolishness. The bottom line is they know that the smaller notes are now less valuable. That's why we no longer use the $5 and the 10 cents and the 20 cents and all these small, because they're now valueless. They're nothing. So they have to keep introducing new and higher notes to compensate for the destruction of the value of our money. That's all they're doing, nothing else. They're just destroying the value of our money each and every day and giving us fancy words, to hide the reality of what they're doing. And it's working because they know that you're not educated to understand this. You're not. And so they get away with it. So the new banknotes is a nice, beautiful way of diluting the currency more and covering their tracks for what they've done. The CBDC is going to be even more disastrous. The CBDC is going to make it easier to pump new currency faster and cheaper into the economy at the speed of light, at the press of a. Now, in the current form, they work through a mechanism, to print physical money. That's one small number, but one. They work through the banking system for the banks to do all of their corrupt things and lend money that they don't earn, and then they have to find ways to lend it and push up housing prices. Yes, bad. But with the CBDC, now they're going to have the ability to quickly, very, very fast, and very cheaply introduce new money into the economy to devastating effect. This will accelerate inflation and purchasing power devaluation like never before. So you're going to have a much harder time keeping up in the new economy which is coming. They're going to wipe you out faster than you can blink. So if you don't become financially savvy and knowing how to move money around fast, and you can't just earn your salary and then save some money, and it's not going to work. You have to find very creative ways, which means many people are going to lose even more, because you're going to be trying to find high return investments, and you're going to be prone to all kinds of things, and you're going to lose money very fast because you're going to make mistakes because you don't know what you're doing, to be honest. So the UIC solution is to introduce what I call free banking. Why do we call our solution free banking? Because it will free up the banking system, and it will free us from the global oligarchs and the local banking cartels by returning the Bank of Jamaica to the people of Jamaica, and by establishing real money. So the UIC is going to dramatically change the standards that we have become accustomed to. We're going to now shift into a very different way, the original way, the way that made sense many years ago when we had more stable economic situation, only that we were also more classist and racist. But that aside, we need to go back to and become even clearer at having very, very stable, real money. So we're going to introduce free banking. Free banking is going to literally open up the banking sector in a way that will allow ordinary Jamaicans to be able to take advantage of your own creativity and genius, which has been locked away by the monopolizing of the banking space by the government. So the UIC, with our free banking model, under free banking, you're going to enjoy the following. Real money, number one, backed by our collective productivity, which will protect your purchasing power. Once you have real money, half your battle is over, because now you can trust the money you earn. You can choose to save with confidence, because that is, you now have that. Next, you're going to have easy access to a bank account. We're going to make banking a right instead of a privilege. So everybody will have a bank account if you want one. There won't be any more complex processes that prevent you from having a bank account. With free banking, you can get a bank account as soon as you can walk and talk if you want one. You're going to be able to freely hold, carry, and transact business in any amount of cash you desire. So no more government telling you how much cash you can carry with you and how much cash you can use in any given transaction. No more limits. You're free. It's your money. It's your life. You're free to do what you want with your money, as long as you're not using force or fraud to infringe on the life, the liberty, or the property rights of anybody else. We're going to make banking fees minimal to zero because of the new environment. So your deposit, your savings, your withdrawals, now you're going to have very low fees to no fees on your accounts because of this new model. Your account will never go dormant or unnecessarily lose value because the banks will no longer have the capacity to do that. The market space will be too competitive for them to do that anymore. We're also going to ensure that you earn competitive interest on your savings accounts and that you can actually save and retire with confidence, knowing that your purchasing power is fully protected. You won't have to go to work and work very hard and then have to be stressed out trying to find what to invest in order to preserve your purchasing power. Now you'll be able to save towards your retirement and save with confidence because your purchasing power will be there for you. We're going to ensure real competition in the sector. We're going to ensure you now have community options, community banking. You're going to have more investment varieties because we're going to free up you, the people, to be creative, to come up with new solutions that are not being prevented by government and bankers colluding to write legislations to push you out of the market and to make it a monopoly for a few banking cartels. We're going to cut that out and give you a truly free banking model that gives you the freedom to think, to create, to design, and to give us new products and new services that brings down cost, increases variety, and protect your purchasing power all in one. Finally, private banks will not be allowed to create money anymore. They will not be allowed to steal your purchasing power anymore. And the government will not be borrowing normally at interest anymore because they don't have to, they never had to, and we're going to turn that around and fix the economy once and for all. Now, if you want that system, let me know by typing yes in the comment section. If you don't like that idea, type no so I can get your feedback and know what you're thinking and how it relates to you. So type yes if you want the system I'm proposing, and no if you want to stick with what they're giving you now, which is nothing. They're simply stealing from you right now. So type a yes for me if you support this approach that I call free banking, where you protect your purchasing power and ensure that you have more variety, lower costs, and no more dormant bank accounts or fees eating up all of your money from the bank. So in this new system here, this is going to inspire local investment, and that's important. We're not just looking for foreign investment. You want to empower your own people locally with laws and regulations that gives them the power, that empowers them to become investors in their own country. It's going to empower the diaspora to invest in Jamaica. We're going to eliminate artificial inflation. We're going to raise our standard of living by curtailing government debt at interest, freeing up capital for productive investments, while stabilizing the dollar and the economy for greater local and international investment. So we are going to put Jamaica on a new framework: good governance, good monetary system, a good education system, an economy that is bottom up, that is grassroots driven, a country which is safe, clean, and orderly, where every Jamaican, every single Jamaican can live, earn, and retire with dignity. If you want this for your country, for yourself and your children, remember to share, like, comment, and tell everybody you know to subscribe to UIC Liberty TV. We need to get the word out. We need to reach more people. You can bet your last dollar on this that the banking cartels who funded these two parties don't want you to hear this, don't want other Jamaicans to hear this. The PSOJ oligarchs do not want the Jamaican people to know about the UIC. So only you can make that happen. Only you. If you want a new and better Jamaica, one which is built on good governance, one which protects your individual sovereignty, one which gives us true collective sovereignty as a nation, if that's a Jamaica you want, then you have to help me. You must join, volunteer, and donate to the UIC to help us to reach more Jamaicans, to create the Jamaica you want. Do we have any questions before we close. How long have I been on now? Looks like, yeah. Any questions? I can take a few questions. I have about 14 minutes, no, 11 minutes left before I go. Any questions from anyone? Any questions from anyone? Address the global financial infrastructure. How are you going to demolish the said structure? Andrew Tucker, we're not going to demolish the global financial infrastructure. We're just going to adjust the way we engage with the globe. So we're going to adjust what we can, adjust our internal approach. So for example, our government will no longer be borrowing at interest normally. We're not going to allow the local banking sector anymore the freedom to counterfeit. We're not going to allow them to channel capital only to certain sectors and pushing up the price of housing and certain things. We're going to now have capital dispersed throughout the economy, particularly at the small and micro enterprise level, so we can bring up our people. So we're going to shift the model of banking, the focus of banking, the purpose of banking, to again serve the people of Jamaica, or for the first time serve the people of Jamaica. And by people, I mean all the people, not just a few wealthy people at the top. It's a new system. Any other question? How can I learn about money, says For the Truth. You can search online. There are many things online you can see. You can just search and say, what is money? What is real money? And watch, them. What do you say about joining the BRICS? The BRICS. I have no problem with us engaging with other countries and trading outside of the US dollar. And that's the real, purpose of the BRICS. It's to go around the US dollars. But remember, in global politics, in geopolitics, the powers that be are always playing games, right, for their particular interests. So you have to make sure that you don't fall prey to another country's special interests. You have to protect your country, protect your sovereignty. So not everything that sounds good is good to just jump into. But the premise of the BRIC we support, which is to remove our international reliance on the US dollar as the global reserve currency. What we need instead is a free trade where we're all trading on the same basis. So America should not have an unfair advantage like it currently has. We need to have a level playing field where we're all trading country to country based on our competitive advantages. Niga says, what say you when you take over to joining the BRICS? So I just answered that. Mr. Perkins, okay, about the strong economy. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? I'm seeing quite a bit of comments. Truth Media TV says, Mr. Patterson, how will the UIC address the need for responsible citizens and prevent potential anarchy if their proposed governance system is implemented? If the UIC system is implemented, there is no chance at all of anarchy. Zero chance. You cannot have anarchy in a country where the government operates on the premise that everyone is free to do what they want with their life, with their liberty, and with their property, provided they do not use force or fraud to infringe on the life, liberty, or property of somebody else. You can never have anarchy in that system. You cannot have anarchy in a system where the government is committed to creating a safe, clean, and orderly society. You cannot have anarchy in a system where you have a police service instead of a police force, and where you have an army which is trained and repurposed to fully protect our borders from illegal things or persons coming in or leaving. So there's no room for anarchy in a UIC system. Right now, as you can see, the current system is destroying us. We're killing children, slashing the throats of an 8-year-old and throwing her out of the car. We are killing seniors. We're brutalizing our women. Our government is busy sponsoring all kind of foreign terrorism against our people, imposing foreign medication on us against our will, forcing foreign identification mechanisms on us, pushing foreign ideals of money and currency on us. So right now is what we should be afraid of, not what the UIC proposes. We need to trade with the motherland, says Wayne Noble. Absolutely. We want to trade with Africa, but we also have to lead Africa, because Africa right now is still not where it needs to be. So Jamaica needs to be a model of what Africa should be, and that's what the UIC intends to do. We're going to make Jamaica the first real republic the world has ever seen, and by our success economically and socially, Africa will be intrigued, as well as the rest of the Caribbean, to follow our lead. Mr. Patterson, what is Jamaican currency backed by? Jamaica's currency is backed by nothing. Jamaica's currency is backed by if anything, by a promise from the government, which is nothing at all. So all currency around the world, by the way, is backed by the US dollar, because if you're on the fraudulent monetary system, then you lend your existence to the US as your reserve currency. So you're backed by the US dollar, and the US dollar is backed by nothing but the power and might of the US government and its willingness to do things to preserve that status. If we were to be locked out of the global financial system, could the UIC system still work? Kamar is asking. Yes. Right now, Cuba is locked out of the system, and they're still surviving, even though they're making their own lives difficult by not liberating their people. So just imagine if we were in a situation like Cuba, but unlike Cuba, our people would actually be free, so they can produce and innovate and create, because their government would not be trying to stop them by making them into a monolithic, group. So Jamaica would be far ahead of Cuba, and Cuba is still surviving. But we wouldn't be locked out of the global system. What would happen is that the global system would be dealing with us on a different level. Unlike countries they can manipulate, we would not be manipulatable, and we'll have a very solid ground on which to stand. Jamaica is a failed state. It's an oligarchy. Politicians are only figurehead, says Jobless. That's true. Will you take back the energy in government control? Terrell is asking. It's not so much of taking back the energy. It is to create an energy policy that allows the Jamaican people to fully compete in the energy space. So not having any artificial barriers that gives monopoly status to any company, but rather having a very enabling environment that enables Jamaicans, the ordinary household, to sell energy back to the grid easily. For smart Jamaicans coming out of UTech and UA, or even those who are self-taught, to come up with new ideas and to share them, for us to facilitate learning and growth in all of the energy avenues, bio energy, thermal energy, geothermal energy, solar. It's really to open up the market space to the Jamaican people and stop having regulations designed to stifle us and give monopoly status to others. How does the UIC intend to handle potential resistance from private sector organizations who may exert significant influence and seek to minimize the power of the corporacy? Well, that I can't answer here, because any attempt by corporate Jamaica to stop us will be met with the full force of the people of Jamaica through the legislative powers that we'll be given. But I can't get into speculations now, because I'll be telling them what their strategy should be if I do that. Are there always evil forces ready to there are evil forces ready to destabilize, but with the education of our people, we should see a different mindset. Absolutely, Angor, that's correct. And you have hit the nail on the head, Education. The UIC is not an education party by chance, it's by choice. We believe the best way to deal with most problems is to have a very educated nation, which the two parties have tried very hard not to happen. The UIC shares the Singapore idea of investing heavily in our human capital so that our people are very bright, very knowledgeable, very aware. If you have a nation of very bright, very knowledgeable, very aware people, you can meet any challenge. And if small Singapore can do that, being 1/15th our size and with none of our natural resources really, if they could have done that, we can do even better. Cool Guy says, just a pity the average Jamaican can't understand what is being taught. No. They can, Cool Guy, they can. It's just to get the message to them. When I go into a little community and talk to people on the side of the street, you'd be amazed. They do need somebody that can explain it, and I try my best, and it seems to work when I go there and talk with people in various places. There are those who don't want to understand because they're committed to keeping the system because maybe they're benefiting or feel like they're benefiting, so they want to keep it. Okay, what specific immediate measures does the UIC plan to implement to address the existing injustices in the employer-employee contractor relationship and ensure fair employment contracts? Well, for one, we're going to ensure that the employee is just as empowered as the employer by virtue of the kind of legislations we put in place that gives the employee parity. One of the problems that you have in any economy, if the average citizen cannot easily compete with his employer, he's at a disadvantage. So if you want to improve employer-employee relations, remove the artificial barriers to entry to any industry, and then the employer will find himself in a position where he has enough competition to force him or her to be more careful in his hiring practices and the kind of HR policies that they implement. That is the best way. If you try to use government to mandate non-basic things, basic things like safety and so on, you have to mandate, right? Safe conditions and so on. But pricing, which is a very important factor, and the whole idea about benefits and so on, what you really want to know is a very rich economy where the employee can buy his own benefit. So he's not going to an employer begging for benefits. And the employer have to come good if he wants to entice him away from other options. So the UIC is going to create a very option-rich country that allows the employee to have many options and the employer to have to be very careful and respectful and responsible if he wants to compete in such a very competitive market space. What about visas being free for African people? Yahusha, that is a nice sounding phrase, but one has to be careful. You have to control your borders. You cannot have open borders just so you can't just say, because people are Africans, you just open your borders and say, come. You have to control your borders. And you have to give yourself time to become solid enough to be able to accommodate what might happen. So I would not be for free visa just like that. If it's reciprocal and the legislations are comparative between the two countries, so you have a bit of symmetry between them, then of course you can do that more readily. But if you have any significant mismatches between the two countries, you can create serious problems for yourself. When Saul didn't work out, the Israelites did not get a Philistine to rule over them. They got David. Interesting. What does that mean? Rohan Graham says, what are some of the measures you will take to uproot corruption that is so entrenched in the Jamaican politics? Very good question, Rohan. Corruption is going to be dealt with from the top down. So anyone caught in corruption in the senior level of government, they'll be the first to be cut down. the first to be penalized. There'll be a zero tolerance level for corruption. If you want to appreciate where the UIC will go with corruption, look at how Singapore dealt with it. We're going to be no less than Singapore, and we'll definitely have the same result as them, and even better. That's correct. Open borders is part of the global plan, with not good intentions. I don't mind an open border, but it has to be within a framework of protecting our individual sovereignty. If you're not protecting individual sovereignty, you can't have open borders, just so. You have to be careful. Anyways, I'm now 5 minutes over my time, so thank you all very, very much for being here tonight. Really appreciate having you on. Until next time, walk good, and remember to join, volunteer, and donate to the UIC. Help us to create one Jamaica, because we're stronger together. Have a good night until next time. Take care.